The world of online streaming is chock full of crime stories, but the one kind of genre you don't hear about often is farm crime. Farm crime? Let's talk about some of the wackiest and weirdest farm crimes of all time, starting with an incident that had perpetrators who didn't chicken out of doing their foul deed at all. An all-out attack on various chicken farms in central South Carolina. In February 2015, several chicken farms were broken into. The damage, you ask? Well, the whole thing left more than 300,000 chickens dead and racked up a staggering $1.7 million in damages. Why would anyone do such a thing? One theory goes that all the farms targeted were contracted to provide for Pilgrim's Pride, which is a dominant chicken producer in the country. So maybe the person or persons behind the heinous act wanted to target their production output. James Laverne Lowry, a chicken farmer from the region, came under suspicion by the authorities as he had a bone to pick with the major chicken supplier. The suspect farmer, however, was cleared of all charges when no evidence could be found that tied him to the act. But no more chicken killings have been reported in the area since. That's a bit of a head-scratcher though, isn't it?
Hey, it's John Siskovich. We're here in my winter chicken housing. We're looking at my chicken feeders with Dr. Mike, the poultry expert. Now, I use the same feeders in the summer that I do in the winter, but Mike's got some good advice for how high you should hang your feeders and what kind of construction they should be.
The next crime targeted a different breed of farm animals, but it's just as weird to think about. The unexplained killings of cattle in Nevada. Back in May 2015, ModernFarmer.com reported on a series of cattle shootings. Ultimately, 60 of them were shot, while a total of 11 were killed. The crime seemed to be a bit senseless because there was no way to explain why it was being perpetrated in the first place. And as investigative dramas have explained time and time again, you can't do nothing if you ain't got a motive. The law enforcement and the ranchers had hoped that the reward of around $30,000 might make someone spill some beans. Sad to say, but the ending of this one isn't available. There's not much comfort to be had because the next crime also is without any closure. Someone split a cow in half, and it was not a magic trick. Absurd as it sounds, a break-in was reported on Christmas Day in 2015. Police quickly responded from Menlo and found a cow carcass at the scene. It had been split in half and totally gutted. No immediate explanation was available as to why anyone would do such a thing. And while on the subject of crime scenes that look like a magic trick gone horribly wrong, the time some criminals made a barn disappear. Well, it's only sorta true, but antique barnwood was a building material that many wanted to get their hands on back in 2015. Needless to say, it was selling like hotcakes. So some geniuses had the brilliant idea to totally take apart the barn of a retired farmer for the coveted wood in Welton, Iowa. In this scheme, they were way ahead of the family of the owner as they had the same plan too. It must have been quite the shock to go up to the barn later, only to find out that all that made it valuable had disappeared. But there ain't no use in crying over spilled milk, is there? Speaking of, the next crime makes it clear that spilled milk actually can totally make you cry, even if there's no use in doing so. A criminal amount of milk was spilled in Connecticut on Christmas Eve. On that day in 2015, some vandals made their way into a dairy farm in Torrington and loosened the valves on the milk storage tanks. The act led to the loss of more than 1,000 gallons of milk. The produce of 71 cows, and that's all the cows at the farm, was laid to waste. It would have been one thing to steal it, but just to let it all go to waste? Sounds super weird. Also, strap in because it's about to get weirder.
Here is an example in a sentence. I lost my key and had to get a new.
With the next reported farm incident, a pile of hay was used to cover up a crime. Now, people have tried a lot of interesting ways to keep a lid on their illegal endeavors. But get this, a farmer tried to hide his illegally built castle underneath heaps of hay. If it sounds like something straight out of the movie Despicable Me, it's only because it might as well be. Robert Fiddler hid his mock Tudor castle that had 4 bedrooms. A little context to its size. behind a huge wall of hay for years. He later claimed that it couldn't be torn down because it was protecting bats and newts that had started to nest within.
On that. Why can't I have a house on my farm?
The world of farm crime is totally astounding, and I haven't even gotten to some of their bizarre investigation technique as demonstrated by this next case. The time a sheep lineup helped identify the people who stole them. In northeastern England, law enforcement used this technique and paraded a flock of animals obtained from a local farming family. It turned out that 161 stolen sheep were identified in the parade by a total of 14 farmers. The farmers' family was then convicted for the thefts they had committed. This was a small-scale operation, but the world of farm crime has gotten some large-scale activity too. A theft ring of farm equipment. A businessman from Ohio was sentenced to at least a 5-year federal prison sentence in October 2015. The offense against Stephen L. Nitz Jr. was that he was operating a multi-state crime ring that was stealing agricultural machinery. He had even coerced several employees into illegal activity while the operation ran for over 5 years. The ring operated mainly in the Midwest. The equipment isn't the only valuable thing to be found on farms, though, as the product is also targeted: the avocado thieves. In 2017, 3 men from California were arrested for stealing $300,000 worth of the good green stuff. All of them were employees of a Mission Produce-owned ripening facility located in Ventura County. Apparently, they had been selling avocados for months, and the buyers had no idea that they were stolen goods. Come November 2017, 2 of them were given a sentence of 2 years in jail, while the third suspect walked free as there wasn't enough evidence against him. The moral of the story is, watch who you're buying avocados from, y'all. Also, be careful when buying fish. It might be coming from a fish mafia. It's the case of the cod men you couldn't refuse. In stranger news still, Carlos the Codfather Rafael.
The Codfather makes a killing in commercial fishing. His secret? Lying and cheating. This is his
reigned supreme over the cod market in New England for decades. During this time, illegal methods, intentional mislabeling of products, and death threats to his rivals were common as well. The whole sordid affair came to an end when Carlos found himself involved with some undercover IRS agents. He was sent to prison for multiple crimes, which included, but were not limited to, money laundering and tax evasion. The IRS sure sniffed out something fishy when they caught the Codfather. Now, some of these cases might be dated, but the farm crime's still going on. The case of the stolen tractor components. In 2021, a family of farmers, ironically named the Hunters, became the victims of a crime wave that targeted the machinery at their farm. On a summer night, GPS components worth 20,000 pounds were simply cut out of 3 tractors owned by Evie Hunter's farm. She used her own investigative skills and found that 30 other tractors in the region of East Anglia had their components removed and stolen on the same night as well. As of January 2023, dozens of farms in North Yorkshire have been made the victim of machinery thefts. A joint operation involving Cleveland Police and North Yorkshire Police is underway to stop the thieves at large. And this was a rundown of some of the weirdest and wackiest farm crimes ever committed.
Hire a secretary, then I'd get in trouble, and then she'd be sitting in my, and we have to discern all that information.